Who doesn't love the feeling of happiness and sometimes relief when checking their bank accounts and seeing their salary has arrived? I know I do. You've probably not given much thought to the process behind it because it's one of those things we can easily take for granted, like having electricity, water, or an internet connection. We only realize how crucial they are when they are gone, or in the case of payroll, when it doesn't show up. Payroll is often described as one of the most important business functions. It's more than calculating wages and providing employees with paychecks. Accurate and timely payroll processes along with flawless payroll management are crucial for a positive payroll experience. This, in turn, enhances employee trust in the business, job satisfaction, and engagement. In this episode of TechTalk's HR Tech season, we discuss payroll with our guests Jo Kippers, Director at Epi-Use, and Emeline Barbenchon, Director in the People, Experience and Change Department at PwC Luxembourg. More precisely, we delve into the challenge payroll professionals are facing and how technology can help them. I'm your host, Christopher Rosa, and this is TechTalk, technology made simple over a cup of coffee. So grab your favorite beverage and let's dive right into it.
Welcome to a new episode of Tech Talk. Today we are going to dive into the payroll topic, which is a fundamental piece of the employee engagement puzzle. Right, Chris?
Yes, and today we're joined by two fascinating guests, so Jo and Emeline. They will bring us their insights on this topic, so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And maybe let's start with the first question, the usual question. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and why you are here today to talk about this topic?
Yeah, up to you, Jo.
All right. Thank you for having us, and thank you for having me here today. I'm Jo Kippers, Belgian. I'm a partner and director at Epi-Use in Europe. But more important, I'm a payroll and time consultant. On our daily life, our bread and butter, that's implementing core HR based on SAP technology. So payroll and time management, that's what we do every single day. So we are very passionate about helping clients in their journey towards global time, global payrolls all over Europe. And I'm happy to share some insights, what we see today with you.
Fantastic. What about you, Emeline?
I'm Emeline Barbenchon. I'm working for PwC Luxembourg since about 8 years, and I'm focusing on HR technology transformation projects, especially implementing HR systems from hire to retire, and that includes payroll as well. So I'm not a payroll expert per se. I have a whole team supporting on this topic and who are experts in delivering payroll for clients, but I'm more on the technology side, and I'm advising clients on the systems that they can implement, whether they are HR systems, payroll systems. And I'm really happy to be here with you today to discuss payroll technology, because I believe there is some place on the market for this topic.
Perfect. Thank you both. So before we start talking about payroll technology, let's take a step back. And I would like to know, why is payroll such a critical topic in today's business environment, and especially here in Luxembourg?
Well, when you talk to people, what are the main aspects that concern them at work? I think one of the first aspects is having their salary.
Of course.
And having the right salary and on time. Indeed, the main resource for companies are their people. And payroll is a critical topic because it helps the company work. Because also if you don't pay the people, they won't work for you. And as well, it's also a critical topic because rules are more and more complex to follow. Especially in Luxembourg, there is a high scrutiny from authorities, new rules related to teleworking coming once in a while, car policy rules, and it's key to have the right understanding and tool to process it.
100% correct. I can only say it's correct with what Emeline is saying. Payroll is not going to stop your company's activities to stop if you not process payroll, right? It's not business critical. It's not core. It is business critical, but it's not core. But it remains extremely important. Payroll is always very stressful. It must be accurate, it must be correct. Otherwise, your employees will not be happy. But for the government, you will have penalties if you don't pay correctly, right? You can even have strikes, so it's a big impact. Payroll has a big impact on your company activity.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm used to getting my salary at the end of the month and take it for granted until I've met someone working in payroll and telling me the whole process and how stressful it is. And then I was like, whoa, that's respect,
Quite
you
a
know?
process,
Yeah.
And that leads us nicely to the next question. So it's a nice segue. So we talked a bit about the rules, about the impact that it can have on the business and on the people in the end. But can you tell us a bit more about the challenges that payroll professionals are facing, and more specifically here in Luxembourg?
Jo?
Right. Exactly what you just said, the stressful moments, that's 100% true. But with the new technologies, we can help and assist there big time. The main challenge is, in fact, you need to have an end-to-end fully integrated solution. If you have that, then your payroll process can be automated and you can make more validations in the system automatically to ensure quality and have your payroll processed on time. Many companies rely on third-party interfaces to interface a part of the payroll, that's the net part. But then you face on a cutoff date when you need to deliver the data to that third party. And that is a very stressful. Are we going to get the deadline of the cutoff date, yes or no? Are there errors? What do we do if there are errors? So an end-to-end integrated solution makes life much easier for payroll admins.
From what I see, a main challenge of customers here in Luxembourg is about trusting their payroll system. Today, they are relying on payroll systems in which they don't have any trust. So it means that they need to recalculate everything on Excel. They have limited control capabilities as well, and they are not able to see who has completed which task when they are doing for-hire reviews, especially in banks and in insurance companies. They are doing it, but it's not documented in the system. So it's about trust, control, audit capabilities. I think those are key challenges today. Also, not everyone is a payroll expert. And that's why we have our payroll process outsourcing team, by the way. But yeah, a lot of rules are changing. There is a high complexity, legal impact, tax impacts, and juggling with all of this, keeping your payroll system updated, having also your payroll system updated by the provider is also very challenging. So, yeah.
Perfect. Emeline, you mentioned outsourcing, which takes me to the next question. What is the best solution for companies, insourcing or outsourcing?
Well, first, let me clarify what is insourcing versus outsourcing. And you might have a different vision.
Aha.
So, for me, insourcing it means that the company owns the payroll solution and process the payroll itself. Outsourcing, it's about relying on a fiduciary or on a Big Four, for example, to perform your payroll. Of course, there are different levels in between. You could have the solution internally, but have some externals working on it. So it can differ. I think both are great. It really depends of your capacities and your size. When looking at insourcing, if you have a company with 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 people, does it really mean something to have an HR function as well as a payroll specialist? And then how do you do when that person is off? Who is processing the payroll? Do you then need to hire 2 people to do that? It seems quite high. And on the other hand, outsourcing for big corporates, outsourcing the full process can cost as well quite a lot. So I think it's a balance. If you are insourcing, you need to have the resources as well as the expertise, and it can be very complex, especially now in Luxembourg with people residing in Luxembourg as well as in Belgium, in France, in Germany. You need to master all of this, so it can be complex. If you are outsourcing, then you are dependent on a service provider, which provides you with end-to-end expertise. However, you need to be satisfied with the service of this provider. What do you think, you?
100% correct. And that's what we see in Europe happening currently. And we are assisting clients to walk away from being locked in by a vendor. So outsource what you just said and being locked in, and they can't change their provider and they're stuck. No, there are other ways of helping these clients. How we see it is insourcing, yes, for technology. So insourcing, we propose the full solution, the technology insourced at the client. Then the client can choose what do we use from technology and how can we evolve it over time, how can we modernize it. But to maintain these systems, to keep them up to speed, we propose to outsource the services. So insource the technology, but outsource the services. And then the client is never binded by a provider because he can easily switch services if you own the solution, if you own the technology.
All right, so there are different paths to follow. And I have an unlisted question for you, Emeline. Sorry. Because you mentioned hybrid models. Do you have an example? What does that mean?
So it's just an example that was shared by you, I think. So in my view, full insourcing is that a client owns the solution and they process the payroll themselves. With an hybrid model, they would own the solution but have a service provider processing the payroll.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification.
And another unlisted one, do you see any trends currently in Luxembourg, or is it just depending on the size of the company, etc., or is there a trend regarding insourcing, outsourcing?
We see exactly these trends in Europe, and Luxembourg is going to follow the European trend. In our opinion, is exactly what I just explained. The insourcing of the technology, then you can choose the more modern ones. Right. The technology vendors, they are investing heavily in having a modern technology, and then outsource the services.
Okay, and then talking about these technologies, and you mentioned as well vendor locking. Another aspect of that is, let's say, cloud-based payroll systems, right? So what are the advantages that you see for these payroll systems over the traditional on-prem solutions?
From my experience, on-premise system can be difficult to integrate with other HR systems, for example, cloud-based. And with more and more core HR systems in the cloud, it's really a challenge. And we see that, and we had an earlier discussion with a client together. What the client wants is that the data coming from the core system, so for example, you change your work time, you have your absence, you change job. They want that almost immediately in their payroll system because they don't want to process payroll at the end of the month. They want to see the progress of payroll every day. They don't want to have all the review and all the stress at the end of the month that you were mentioning, Carla. And with integrating, for example, a core HR systems on the cloud and an on-premise system for payroll, it has challenges. So I think that is the first one, having data flow that is immediate. And second point for me is really the maintenance. Meeting with different clients in Luxembourg, the challenges that have been often raised are that they need to wait for the provider to come at the end of the year to do the update of the system. They are really dependent of the provider throughout the year to make some updates, to make some changes, and they have their own version. And if you are going to the cloud, everyone is on the same version, you are sharing all the updates, and you don't have that maintenance effort throughout the year.
Exactly. Cloud solutions future-proof. All the new technologies are made available only in the cloud. So it's cloud exclusive. But on top of this, security. The providers, they deliver top-notch security, that there are no hackings possible in your company. User-friendliness, they invest heavily in cloud, so user-friendly especially, that employees can use a mobile phone, they can use a laptop, a hybrid way of working. But especially as well cost efficiency, because you don't have to host your data centers anymore, you don't have to administrate these activities anymore. So this cost effectiveness as well.
Very strong arguments, I would say. I guess it is related with something you said, Emeline, about payroll professionals wanting to do things out very fast, being flexible with updating the information. So what are the benefits and potential risks associated with automating payroll systems?
Well, I see only benefits in automating payrolls. I said it previously, an integrated end-to-end solution allows you to create an automation. Day one of the month, you can already calculate your payroll end-to-end. So you will see immediately the errors, and you don't have to wait until the cutoff date. So there are only benefits. You can validate automatically your payrolls. Doing it in Excel manually, or let the system do it for you while you're sleeping, what do you prefer? Of course, it leads to higher efficiencies, and the quality of your payroll processing will only go up.
Yeah, I remember a client, before they switched payroll system, they were controlling all their payroll through Excel. And especially that payroll manager, he had in his office, the old calculator with the paper. So he was using that still. And I think automation is also coming from leaving that lengthy review, leaving that stress out, avoid doing the manual recalculation. And it's about trust as well. If you have something that is automated, that is tested thoroughly, then it's less and less stressful for the people. I would say I have some risks in mind related to automation. So I'm disagreeing with you on this. You can set up your automation at the beginning of your project. And it can be, for example, controls on some rules. Okay, do I have more than 15% of changes in terms of salary from one month to another? However, I think it's important to keep in mind that all of those automatizations, you need to review them on a regular basis. Taxation and payroll rules, it's difficult to say, payroll rules are evolving, so they need to be reviewed thoroughly from a regular basis, and to me, that's a risk. Even if it's automated, you should not forget that, okay, are my automatizations still all right?
And then maybe linked to that, how do you develop that trust with clients? I mean, for your client that was working with this paper calculator, how did you, let's say, manage also the change and onboard them onto this journey and build the trust to automation?
I guess that's an unlisted question as
well. It is, but it's interesting. I find
it's a big change for them. And in that example of this client, what was really important for them, it was to see. You can only trust something you see, and through the different testings, and there are multiple ways of testing, but they were able to see, okay, now it's working, now I don't need to recalculate everything because I know I can trust from what I've seen and experienced.
Make sure that the system is already accurate and correct, and then the trust is there.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easier said than done, I assume. No, but yeah, okay. Good. So then on to the next question. We talked a bit earlier about trends. I think it was also an unlisted question I asked. But now maybe what trends do you concretely see in shaping the future of payroll solutions in Luxembourg, but not only in Luxembourg, in Europe as a whole?
Yeah, so both technology and services are becoming increasingly important. For example, the government. The governments are more and more digitalizing. More and more data is exchanged with the government, even instant. For example, recently in Belgium, they changed a law that some sectors, employees have to clock in, clock out, and has to send these data has to be sent at once to the government. When they clock in for work, it has to be sent to the government for inspection. It's only going to increase these data exchanges with the government. So technology becomes extremely important. So embracing new technology and services is key, enhancing the user experience for the end users and efficiency.
Sorry, just wanted to comment on that because I used to live in Belgium and I remember that I had a paper timesheet. So that's very interesting to know that they are evolving. Sorry, go ahead, Emeline.
So on my side, in terms of trends, we see functionalities that are already here. For example, Payroll Control Center with SAP. With such functionality, you can process payroll every day. And it could be, in the future, I hope my employer is also listening, that I can be paid outside of normal payday, so that I don't need to wait for the end of the month to be paid. I could be paid on request, when I want, when I need. If my information are accurate, then it should be possible. So my vacations are planned already, if we can look at this.
I think that's very interesting. I was doing some research yesterday to write the introduction of this podcast, and and I read about that, the possibility of flexibility that payroll technology can bring. So it's very interesting. We are coming to an end, and I would like to ask you for the key takeaways from our discussion.
I've got three
Perfect.
takeaways if I can. The first one: insource the most modern technology while outsourcing your services. I've said it a few times, but this is really for us an important takeaway. This avoids the clients to have a lock-in of their providers, and they can switch over time. That helps big time. And you maintain your flexibility, right? Secondly, ensure that your payroll processes are automated and integrated end-to-end for your efficiency and accuracy. And lastly, keep up with the technology and technological trends to enhance your user experiences for the end users, payroll admins, and especially to comply with the ever-changing government digitalization efforts.
On my side, two things. Expertise in payroll is key, and technology is complementary to that expertise related to tax, related to all the rules that are applicable. However, technology will change the way the payroll job is done. And with more and more automations, with more and more controls, people are going to spend less and less time doing 4 eyes reviews manually, recalculating in Excel. And I think they're going to be able to focus much more on the future and planning as well the next payroll for the next months, and also having a better vision of the overall mass salarial. How do we say that in English? The overall resource spent, if I can say. And on the second key takeaway for me, technology can bring trust. However, it will need to be tested and tested thoroughly by the people so that they accept that. So testing is key, but technology is really an enabler for trust.
Great. So
Great way
once-
to conclude, I would
Yes.
say.
once again, I think this message comes across very often that if used correctly, technology can be
Enabling.
enabler, yes, to make our lives easier. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
I hope it was you had fun in the end, Jo.
It was great to be here, and that's for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for today. This is Tech Talk, technology made simple over a cup of coffee. Don't miss out on any future episodes by hitting subscribe. Thank you for listening to this episode and see you in the next one.